My name is Mike Morgan, and I'm the board chair of IPTC. In case you're new to APA, our mission is to advocate, educate, and elevate the professional photographic community. Advocacy for our industry is a really big part of what we do. So there's only a few trade organizations out there that are collectively fighting for the rights of photographers. So if you're not a member, I would strongly encourage you to join and and help support the industry that's supporting you. So you can reach out to us at membership@apadc.com and use the discount code DC1 for 20, and that'll get you $20 off of a new membership, any membership level. Do want to just quickly mention a few of our upcoming events. We've got a couple of in-person events, a happy hour here in DC on the 31st of January at American Ice Company. Then we're returning to our APA coffee breaks. We're going to be doing the first one on February 4th, and that's at the Kogod Courtyard at the National Portrait Gallery. That'll be sort of a meet the board, and you can come and discuss APA, or if you've got any business questions, anything you want to chat with us about, please join us for that. Then on the 9th of February, we have a Zoom event. It's an evening with Kate T. Parker. She's an Atlanta-based advertising photographer, and she's the author of Strong is the New Pretty and several other books. That book, you'd probably recognize some of the imagery from that kind of sparked her advertising career. So she's going to talk all about that. Then we have coming up a few things that we haven't opened up for tickets yet, but we're doing our assistance workshop again. That's going to be, we have the studio date for that on April 1st, and that's going to be at Yolk Studio in DC again. So please spread the word about that. And then we also have our Glenstone Museum field trip, securing tickets for that. It's for APA members, free tickets, and it's an incredible, amazing museum experience if you've never been. That's going to be on May 13th. Okay, and so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Katie Dance. She's our new director for our chapter, and take it away, Katie.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie. I am the newly appointed director of the DC chapter. I previously served on the board for the last 4 years, so I'm super excited to step into this role. We are thrilled to introduce Mick. He is the director of marketing at Camera Bits, and he's an event and concert photographer based in the Pacific Northwest. He has graciously provided APA a discount for photo mechanics. So if you're an APA member, we will follow up with you after, and you will be able to purchase a new license or upgrade your photo mechanic with a discount. So he's here for to show us best practices. So he's going to give us a 30-minute demo, and then we will do a Q&A at the end of the event. So please add any of your questions to the chat or message me privately. But take it away, Mick.
All right, thank you, Katie, and thank you, Mike. Thank you very much for having me. Greetings to everyone here all around the world. Thank you very much for coming in. As I said, I am Mick from Camera Bits. I'm a white male, balding with a bushy gray beard and glasses. My pronouns are he, him. And we are here to introduce and actually demonstrate photo mechanic. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen and we can get right into it. All right, let's move this out of the way. All right, so we're looking at photo mechanic. What is photo mechanic? Let's get into it. Photo mechanic is a tool for working with images, with digital images. It's an image viewer. It's a metadata engine. It's a workflow accelerator. It's many different descriptions. It's been around. We're just entering our 25th year, so it's been around a long time. It has a lot thrown in there. It's frequently used after a shoot or after an event or after a wedding, a game, something like that. You use photo mechanic to copy images off your memory card to your computer, add metadata to them, cull them to find your keepers and your rejects, and move them around where they need to be, rename them, and then get them transmitted to where they need to go. Photomechanic is not a pixel editor. It's not a post-processing raw renderer. You do not use it to add looks or filters or do color corrections or compositing or anything like that. But we do try very hard to interface with other softwares that do that, things like Adobe Lightroom, Adobe Photoshop, Capture One, et cetera, et cetera. We're looking at Photomechanic here. These are images in a folder. Now, one thing that's very important to know when using Photomechanic, we're using Photomechanic 6, and I will say that I'm using Photomechanic 6 on a Mac. Pretty much all the same functions are available on the PC, but it might look a little different. All right, using Photomechanic on a Mac, and I'm looking at images in a folder. One thing it's very important to know when working with Photomechanic is that it just looks at images, or it works with images as they already exist on your computer. This is a folder on my computer, and as we see over here in the navigator, we can come down here, or in my favorites pane, if I come down here and click on a folder, it just opens up that folder and shows me the contents of that folder. There's no importing into Photomechanic. I didn't have to go through a step to bring these into Photomechanic. These are just a folder in my computer. All right, let's close that. And so, yeah, this and you can have as many of these context sheets open in tabs as possible, as you need, I mean. So, as I said, this is the navigator. This is basically a view of my computer. These are all the items that are pinned to the side of Finder in Mac OS. It would be an Explorer if I were using a PC, or I can just drill down into here and find any folder on my computer. I can view it. And then if there's a folder that I use a lot, I can click and drag that up to the favorites pane up there. And as you can see, I have quite a few favorites folders that I use very frequently, but that's what's going on here. This context sheet can be sorted, defaults to sort by file name, but you can sort by capture time, modification time, rating. You can create a custom arrangement if you need to. You can sort by really any sort of metadata that is associated with the file. These 10 slots here are all custom sorts, and they are based on little bits of metadata. So I could sort by camera serial number. If I'm working with multiple cameras, I could sort by dimensions of the file, sort by what lens I use, etc. You can edit those as well. But these 10 can be edited if you click here, edit custom. You can reverse the sort here, and you can also choose to view all the images in the folder, only ones that are selected, only ones that are tagged, or only untagged. And over here, these are the widgets for filtering out by star rating and color class. Let's see if I go through and rate some of these images here. We give this one a 4-star, this one a 3-star, this one a 2-star, this one a 2-star, this one a 4-star, 3-star, there's a 4-star, a 5-star. Now, if I want to only show the 3 stars and above, I can deselect 0, 1, 2. That shows me only the 3 stars and above. And if I have some of these color classed here, add color classes, I can then filter that down further by showing. Now I'm looking at only 3 stars and above and only color class green. And then I can clear these out and go back to everything. One tip that not a lot of people know: if you hold down the Option key on a Mac, or I believe it's the Alt key on a PC, and hold on the Option key or and click on these, it automatically deselects the others. So if I just want to view just 3, Option click, and then if I Option click 3 again, it restores the else. So that's kind of a shortcut. All right. Yeah. So let's. So by the way, I wanted to point out that these images that we're looking at right now are images from a CameraBits ambassador, Charmi Patel. She's a destination wedding photographer. CameraBits ambassador, a fantastic person. Thank you very much, Charmi, for letting us use images in this demo. And we'll have, I'll be introducing another photographer that'll be using his images as well later on. But okay, and you can also here change the size of the thumbnails if you need to get a lot of them on the screen at once. If you need to see less, a bigger view. But when you are looking at images, then now you double click on one of these, it opens up in what's called the preview window. Very important here. It's a larger view of the image with some key metadata over here. Now this is called the info pane. And all the metadata in here is also customizable. You can change what metadata is shown here. If there's certain metadata that you need, whether that be captions, whether that be alt text, and you want to see that in here, this can all be customized. Down here's the film strip for viewing other images in the folder. You can arrow key through them. And then we have some tools over here for working with images. Like I said, Photomechanic doesn't do pixel editing, but we do put a crop tool in here just in case you need to do a crop. And what this is, this crop doesn't delete pixels or anything like that. It's just called a soft crop. It adds crop information to the metadata. So if I were to say, add this crop here, and I wanted to preview it, I hit the P key to preview. And then this crop is now in the metadata. It's not, I didn't delete these pixels, but if I bring this into Lightroom or Camera Raw or Camera Raw or Lightroom, this crop will be available to be edited there. So it's and you can also rotate it and things like that. Clear that out. There's also the zoom tool, also very, very helpful, especially when evaluating images. You can either click the checkbox here to zoom in. You can click and drag and move around here. The Z key, though, is usually much faster. You get used to the keyboard shortcuts. And I will say that using keyboard shortcuts is one of the keys to getting really, really good at Photomechanic. So there is a page with all the keyboard shortcuts on our site. I highly encourage you to use them, but I'll try to call them out when I use them on here as well. So the Z key is that you can control the zoom level with the Z key, or the plus and minus. So I can zoom in with the plus, zoom out with the minus, or use this slider here. There's also a histogram. Not too useful looking at finished JPEGs, but if you were looking at raw files and you wanted to know if the shadows are really blocked up or if the highlights are blown out, you can use the histogram to do that. Very, very useful when working with raw files, because sometimes a raw file, as you know, can be maybe look dark, but can be recovered in your raw processor. So that's what the histogram is for. It's a tool to help you evaluate images a little bit quicker. All right, up here we have some tools. We can do a soft rotate if the image wasn't rotated in your camera. You can, this button will bring this photo into the whatever photo editing program is associated with the file type on your computer. So this is a JPEG. If I click this, it will open up, I believe in Photoshop. I can delete the image. I can make a copy of the image. I can view images side by side over here with this tool here. So I can, if I want to compare images, and when I zoom in on an image, I can, if I click the lock scrolling here, I can change it so both images zoom around. This will make more sense when I get into the demonstration later, when we look at images from a burst. Perhaps this is more useful. And then if I want to go back to the one view, just the O key, and the keyboard shortcut. This is H to view horizontally stacked, and V to view vertically stacked. All right, go back to this. You can change the size, the location of these thumbnails to either be on the left side or the bottom, whatever you prefer. And if you want to get rid of some of these other things, but see an even larger view, you can go to the full view here. All the keyboard shortcut still works. You can do zooming in here to that. And you click this to restore these panes. All right, so that's a basic view of the preview window. Oh, this is the I key. Let's get into metadata here. Let's pause it and talk about metadata. I'm sure you're all familiar with metadata, but it is information about an image. Frequently, that's information about the camera that took it, the settings that were used in the camera, the date, the lens, et cetera, but it also includes things like captions, keywords, credit information, copyright information, licensing information, information about where it was taken, information about who is in the photo, what the photo shows. And Photomechanic is very, very it's a very, very flexible tool for working with metadata. And if I click on we're going to see metadata that's currently associated with this photo. And we have a few things in here. We have a little bit of a caption. We have some keywords. We have some alt text. This is actually a new feature that was added to Photomechanic recently. Alt text being an accessibility feature I always like to call out for especially use on the web when images are being on a web page and you use a screen reader, if you're differently able visually, you can use the alt text to convey the content, the visual content of the image. So I just wanted to highlight there. We've done a lot of work to try and make this compatible with the alt text ecosystem all around the web. And this is the IPTC recently added this, I believe, a little over a year ago as an official field. And so this was just added to Photo Mechanic. And you can, when you're in here, you can navigate to other images in the folder without clicking out of this if you need to. But the escape key will close this, and the escape key also closes the preview window. All right, since we're going to be working with metadata, I wanted to show you something in preferences in Photo Mechanic. And this is going to introduce a couple of other concepts as well. As you see, if I hit the I key, the shortcut for the I key to bring that metadata back, there's a lot of metadata fields here, but not everyone's going to need to use them all. Not everyone needs to, use different names, or you might want to rearrange things. And I want to show you how to customize your metadata screens to have the information that you need and the size you need it. So let's close this and let's go into preferences. So to get to preferences, you can do it from the menu, but the keyboard shortcut, as I said, is always easier. And the keyboard shortcut on a Mac is Command, comma. And on a PC, that would be Control, comma. And we have the preferences screen. So all the different preferences sections are up here in a drop down. There's a lot of them. Don't be scared. We'll go through a few of these preferences the way I like to set things up, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But what I want to do is come down to the preferences for accessibility. And there's the customize metadata IPTC info and customize the metadata IPTC template screen. So when I click on this, we have all the fields here, and I can choose to make certain ones visible or invisible. If they are text fields, I can change the size of them to be, larger or smaller. And it's not immediately apparent, but I can also click around these and drag. If I click and hold and drag, I can drag this and reorder them. So that's all well and good. But one other feature now that I want to show you right now and introduce you to is the snapshot icon. You'll see this button, a little lightning bolt, on many of the different dialogues and screens in Photo Mechanic. This is quite possibly the most important little button you can use in Photo Mechanic to kind of customize Photo Mechanic and get it working the way you like it, and to be able to do a lot of work in advance and save yourself a lot of time. What this does on any screen, any dialog screen, it will allow you to save however you've set it up as a preset to use later. So I have some presets in here. In fact, I have a preset for the way I like my IPTC setup. So I'm going to select that. And as you can see, it does all the choices that I've made. So let's do that. And I want to do the same thing with the IPTC template. Again, there's all the fields here, and I'm going to go in on my preset that I've set. And we're going to apply that. All right. So now let's go back into an image. And if I click on I and look at the metadata, now we can see I've really narrowed this down to the fields that I often use. These are all rearranged. I put the title object name up here because I use that. This is also, the title object name is the title when you go into Lightroom. And normally it's further down in the IPTC info, but I like it up at the top, so I've rearranged that up at the top.
Yeah,
so I wanted you to be...
Mick,
Yes.
sorry. We're getting a couple of messages from people to ask if you can slow down a little bit. I think it's a lot of information for people to take in. Thank you.
It is, yeah, and this presentation, by the way, is being recorded, and I believe after a month or so, or maybe a little bit more, you can rewatch it. So we have a lot to cover, but I will try and slow down a little bit. And I will point out that a lot of this information is available on our website as well. In fact, let's go over here. If we go to the Photo Mechanic homepage or the Camera Bits homepage, and if you come down to the support section, there is a help center, which I will go in here and where is it? Docs page. And there are articles on getting started, setting up some best practices. There are videos for setting up Photo Mechanic, et cetera, knowledge base here. So a lot of this information that I'm covering and going a little fast, you can get to by going to camerabits.com and going to docs.camerabits.com or clicking that link in the header of camerabits.com, and this is here. All right. Let's show. So, as I said, now if we go into this metadata screen, we can see that I've reorganized this to be how I like to set it up, and the fields that I need are here. All right. Next thing I want to talk about is some of the features of photomechanics that are used to speed up adding metadata. And two of those are code replacements and variables. Code replacements is a way to create little shortcuts based on maybe 1 or 2 character shortcut that expands or is replaced by a larger string of text. This is very helpful. This is most often used when if you're at maybe a sporting event or the Olympics, you can key in shortcuts to be based on a player's jersey number or a bib number, and it can expand to their name. But there's other uses as well. And when we get, as I go through all these features, I am going to do a full-on demo of an ingest where I pretty much show all of these features in action. So we'll get to that. So I'm trying to introduce them here, but when we get to the ingest demo, you'll see a lot of this, how it works. But another feature that I wanted to talk about is variables. And I can show you a little bit about this here. Let's go into this information. Let's go into here and let's call in the metadata. So what are variables? If you see a lot of these metadata screens, there's a button down here called variables. If you click it, it opens up the variables that are used in photomechanics, and there are a lot of them. But what variables do is a way to insert metadata into other fields of metadata without having to look up what they are. And this is, the variables are dynamic based on the image that we're looking at. So if I'm adding a variable to many images, it will bring in metadata specific to that specific image. So for example, if I'm writing a caption and for some reason I need to put in things about the date here. If I want to put the date this was taken, I can come in, and if I double click day, it will insert the variable day, or I could just manually type it out. And the day will go into the metadata, the exif data for the image, and will insert that information into the in this case, the caption field. So let's add a few of these in here. We'll say we'll have do the month, day, comma, and we'll do year. I normally just type these in, but because I know all the shortcuts, but this is here they are in here. So let's, and if I hold down on if I just apply, if I hit OK, it will apply this. But if you hold down the option key, the OK will change to a value, so you can get a preview, so you can see what this is going to do before it happens, or before you actually apply it. And there was it's 10/27/2018. So that's it went into the photo. I didn't have to look up in the exif data. It inserted this information there. So as we get into the demonstration of the ingest, you'll see a lot of other uses for variables, but this is the basic concept. It's using these little strings to insert metadata into other fields without having to go ahead and look it up. All right, and let's get ready for that culling session. I've got a memory card here with some images from a soccer match taken in Portland by another friend of Camberbits. His name is Howard Lau. And we're going to do a demonstration where I'm going to ingest the images. That's copying them from the memory card to the computer. I'm going to go through and add some metadata. I'm going to do a cull, and I'm going to show you how I use code replacements and variables together. And this time around, I don't normally do this in my demos, but I wanted to start working this in. I'm going to show you a use of the subset of the code replacements called hot codes. This is a very powerful feature of photomechanics, but it's very difficult to explain and difficult to understand. So I want to give you a brief intro of that, but it's another way for adding, it's another tool that you use to add metadata to images faster than you would just by going through image by image and typing that in. All right, well, next thing I want to do though is set up to get ready for this ingest process. I want to show you some things and preferences, the way I like to set them up to speed up the culling process. These are things that can save you clicks or save you taps, save you keystrokes. So we'll go back into preferences. Again, that is command comma or control comma if I were on a PC. Under accessibility, again, this field, the single key shortcuts. Now, there are three main ways you kind of identify images in metadata. A, you can tag it, which is just yes or no. B, you can assign a star rating, 0 through 5. And C, you can set a color class. You can assign these color classes or star ratings or tags via keyboard shortcuts or clicking in the interface at any time. But the single key shortcut is if you will allow you to add either a color class or star rating just by pressing a single key. And this normally defaults to color class. If I usually hit 0 through 8, it will apply color class. I like to set it to star rating because that's my primary culling criteria. So I wanted to change this to 5. So I wanted to show you how I did that. Also, in preferences, we're going to go to the preferences for the preview window. And we're going to have this set to automatically advance to the next photo whenever these things are changed. So when I go through a cull and I want to, if I change the color class or I add a rating, it's going to automatically advance to the next photo. Again, this saves you a click or a tap. And as you go through here, saving, these, if you're working with 600, 700 images, all these little shortcuts start to add up. All right, so those are two preferences that I just wanted to show in the. All right, now let's, before we get into the ingest, let's talk a little bit more about code replacements. I wanted to show you how code replacements are set up. And to do that, I'm going to go into, I use a spreadsheet to do my code replacements, but you can do them in a text editor. I'm using Google Sheets, that's free. You can use Excel, you can use, what is it, numbers in a Mac, that's as well. But what is code replacement? Code replacement is a way to insert a code, in this case, these little shortcuts like PT17, and it will replace that with whatever we have over here, whatever are in these columns. I have the player name, I have the player last name, and I have the player position over here. And so what I would do is I would either get this, there are services that can create these for you, or you can create them yourself. You can, especially if you're good with a spreadsheet, you can do a lot of pasting and moving things around. So if you're good in the spreadsheet, that can be very, very helpful. But as I said, you can also do this in a text editor as well. You don't need any specific thing. As long as you save this as a plain text file, no formatting. So make sure it's not RTF or anything like that. It's got to be plain text. And each of these columns would normally be separated by a tab. That's why I like to use a spreadsheet, because I can export this as a TSV, and a tab separated value will be recognized by PhotoMechanic as a code replacement file. So here's my code replacement file. What I would normally do is come in here, and since I'm using Google Sheets, I would download as a TSV. And in PhotoMechanic, come over here to Edit, Settings, Set Code Replacements. And I would find that file that I've done, and I've added to this list. See, I have this one, but I also have one called Game Captions. This is going to be a code replacement sheet that has some hot codes in it. So we'll get into that soon. But I wanted to point out that you can have as many of these loaded at the same time as you want. So you can have, say, a global code replacement that has all your commonly used shortcuts. If you use it like phrases a lot, or locations, you can create code replacements that you always have available to you. And then you can load in specific ones for a specific event. Like, for example, this is going to be one code replacement file for these two teams for this particular year. So once you get these loaded in here, hit OK, and now they are available to you in the metadata. So let's talk a little bit about hot codes. Hot codes are the same concept of code replacements with a little bit extra. Let's go into here. And bear with me, this, as I said, this can be a little bit hard to understand. So I don't want to get too deep into it, but I wanted to show it in action, because this is a very powerful feature once you can master it. So I just kind of want to give you an introduction to this here. And I believe in February, we're going to be doing a webinar on the CameraBits YouTube page just for hot codes. So I'm going to show you a little bit how this works real quickly here, but we're going to dive deep into this in a webinar in February. If you go to camerabits.com/webinar, you can see that on our calendar. But all right, code replacements with hot codes are a little bit more complex, but more powerful. And what happens is, in fact, let's here I created this template for myself just to do the explanation. So code replacement is with hot codes means we're going to look at metadata in the file in variables. Remember, variables are kind of links to metadata in the field in the file itself. The hot code looks in the variables for information, for content, for strings that you put here. When it finds that in these variables, it will insert or replace, do a code replacement for whatever you put in these fields here. Again, I know this is complicated, so I'm going to show it in action and it will probably make more sense. But to explain the way I have this set up, I'm going to be looking in the folder number variable for these two things, CF101 or CF102. When it sees CF101 and it sees that I've put in the hot code for caption, it will insert this. If it sees the folder number 102, it will insert this into the same area. So let's get into this ingest of this process, and we'll show this in action. Let's go back into photo mechanic here. Let's call up the ingest screen. You can have photo mechanic set to pop this up as soon as you pop in a memory card, but the keyboard shortcut is Command G to get to ingest. And let's talk a little bit about the options here. So these are the options that will control what you're doing when you're copying images from your memory card to your computer. And I want to take a second here to say that it is generally best practice to do the copying of the images from your card to your computer before you start doing a lot of things like adding metadata, captions, adding ratings or star ratings. Photo Mechanic does let you open up the card itself and look at images on the card and start adding star ratings and metadata, but that's not a great idea. For once, it's adding information to the card, and if your card is full, you're going to be starting to add more information to your card, and that's a recipe for danger. And two, memory cards aren't really designed to be read-write for all these kind of small bits of information. And the more you work with images on your card before you've ingested them, there's always a small risk, just because of how memory cards are set up and how they're formatted, that you could corrupt your card. This is the same reason why you don't like to delete images from your camera on a memory card. It messes with the table of contents. So I just wanted to say it's always safest and best practice to copy the images to your computer first before you start working on that. There are some ways to speed that up if you only want to ingest a few photos, and we have a video from that on our YouTube channel. But in general, you would copy all the images first. So I wanted to point that out because I hear from a lot of people that ingest isn't working or metadata isn't working, and it's usually because they're trying to add metadata to images that are still on the memory card, and the card is full, and they start getting error messages, and it's not good. All right, the ingest dialog. We're going to be copying images, as I said, from the memory card to my computer. Up here, you would normally pick your root folder, which is called the primary destination, just the root folder. You don't have to worry about subfolders up here, just the root. And then down here, there's choices for how you want to put those within the root folder. You can choose to put them into a folder with a name, a dated folder, directly into the root folders, what have you. And we can also use variables here. In fact, I've done that in a preset. Here's the snapshot icon. Let's come down here, and I have a snapshot that I have a lot of these options that I've chosen for sports. So let's look at what happened here. So here's my root folder. It's now the demo folder. It's going to create a folder with a name, but that name, I used variables. So variables are going to insert a date sort variable. This is the variable that has, let's go into variables here again to show you what this is. Date sort is year, month, day. It's one string that has a date. This is a lot of people like this format, so it's kind of a shortcut among shortcuts to do date sort. And I've also done / which is now going to create a subfolder in here. You can actually create subfolders in the folder name, and I have the variable for job. So what does that mean? Job is just another variable, and if I click the job button here, you will see that I've created I'm just going to call this job Timbers DC United because this is the job. I might need this other places. So this puts Timbers DC United into the job field, and then I can now use the variable in curly brackets job anywhere I need to insert that string. So it's going to create a folder with a date, and then it's going to create a folder with the job. I don't have to create these folders in advance. Photo Mechanic will create them automatically. Okay, we're going to be copying everything on the card, the locked and the unlocked photos, raw and non-raw photos. If you're shooting raw plus JPEG, you can make that choice. But we're also going to apply some metadata template to the photos. And here's where all the variables and code replacements and hot codes are going to come in handy. Let's open up this metadata template. This is some metadata that we're going to be applying to the images as they come in. And let's do this here. All right, so here's how it allows, he's the photographer here. We want to, actually what I want to do is, so we're going to use some variables here. We're going to say, maybe we'll put the object and we'll put the job in the, just as a placeholder for the title object name. And we say the caption. Let's so I want to use the hot code to have things about the caption. Let's say, so let's put the event here. Let's type this in because and it's always a good idea to get this set up before you do your event. Like spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour setting this up before the event, so that after the event you have this all set to go. And the location, I did the code replacement. So let's show a code replacement in here. I have the code replacement that I had in my code replacement file. Let's go back to that just to show it here. I have a code replacement PP, which will insert these different things. So let's go back into Photo Mechanic. And since I'm showing the location, let's put in the shortcut PPP, and it expands to Providence Park. Or if I wanted to do the full name, let's do PP, and we'll do the second column too. And it inserts that whole string for me. So that's the location here. So now I have this in the event. But if I want to put a caption and I don't want to retype all this, I can put in the variable for event. But now we're going to use we're going to talk a little bit about hot codes. We're going to show how I'm using hot codes. So let's go back to the hot code sheet here. And I have a hot code based on the folder. And I'm going to have a kind of prefix for my caption. So what I'm going to do here is the shots from the game. During the pre-game, the photographer in camera assigned those pictures to a certain folder. Then when the game started, they changed the capture on the camera to put the images in another folder. This is probably one of the most powerful interfaces between hot codes and camera functionality and metadata that I've seen. I learned this from a photographer named Jeff Vogan. He's also a Camera Bits ambassador, and he's a very, very advanced user of Photo Mechanic, and he showed me how to do this, and this has changed my life a lot for speeding things up. So yes, let's get back into show this actually in action so we can see how this works. But we'll put in the hot code. Now hot codes are like variables except they're in square brackets. So I have the hot code for the caption here. Let's put that in square brackets. Spell that correctly. All right, and we're going to put the keyword. We're going to assign the keyword as well. Let's put the hot code as we in there for game state. As we saw, that was one of the other hot codes. All right, so this is all information that's going to be added to the images as we get them, copy them from the memory card. It's a way to. It's a time-saving step, so you don't have to do this in a separate step. This is all going to happen as these images are copying, and they're all going to be renamed as well. That's another common thing. Normally, when you have images on a card, they would be set to DSC 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not usually helpful. So what we're going to do is we're going to rename the photos with, again, the date sort variable. We're going to put the photographer's name in the file name, and we're going to use the frame number just to retain that. So where you normally have DSC 1, 2, 3, 4. The frame number will be the 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to keep that number, so in case you need to refer to that later. All right, actually, I'm going to close this. And before I do this, I wanted to show you the memory card here, just to point out the different folders. So let's, here's the memory card here. But as you can see, the images are in different folders. The camera created these folders in camera. When the photographer was shooting, they recorded the pre-game images into this folder and the game images into this folder. And doing that enables you to do all this cool stuff with the metadata that we're going to show. So let's just want to point that out. Okay, let's go back into the ingest here. So make sure we have the same metadata. Yep, all the metadata is still there. All right, let's put in some alt text here just as a good usability thing. This is a placeholder, and then I can always fine tune this later on. But it's always good to have some alt text here to kind of remind yourself to do that later. So that's why I'm going to do that. All right, so we down here have let's get this out of the way. We can erase the source disk after ingest. I would never do that, but if you're really in a hurry, you can do that. Unmount source disk after the ingest. This is if you're going to be heading it back out into the field. This will also save you a little click. So those are some other things here. All right, let's select this and we'll start the ingest and see what we have. So the ingest starting. All right, first of all, let's point out that in my demo folder, it created this folder with the date stamp there, the date sort, and then it created the subfolder with the job title. And here the images are coming in. If we double click on one of them, we see we have the file name now, has the date sort, has the photographer's name and the frame number. And let's look at some of the metadata. Hopefully this worked. All right, now we have as we can see now, the images from that folder of pregame now say pregame scenes from this event. And it's tagged pregame. If we come down here to the other down, let's make it here, coming in slowly but surely. So say for one of these images, now we're talking game action. It automatically put a different keyword and different caption based on the folder number. This is probably, like I said, one of the most powerful features of Photo Mechanic. And you can get very, very creative with how you use this. Some photographers use, when they shoot portraits, maybe if they're shooting high school portraits and they're shooting 100 portraits in a day, they have one spreadsheet, just one spreadsheet that has a folder number with the student's name. And then you can have the caption of the keywords be assigned during the ingest to all the 100 different students dynamically, so that each image comes through and it gets ingested with the specific subject's name. So that's one big use of hot codes. That's why I wanted to show it. Let me put in different caption information based on the folder in the camera, and so now this is already done, and I didn't have to go through and go through these one by one and add the as I said, just to go back to this one more. So the pre-game stuff has this caption, and the game action images have the different caption. Make sense? Okay, as I said, I know this is a little bit tough to get your head wrapped around, so this is kind of an introduction. We do have other videos covering that in on the website, on the docs page, or on our YouTube channel as well. And we are doing a hot codes specific webinar later on in early February. I believe it's February 4th, but don't quote me on that. February 2nd or February 4th. All right, so as I go through now and I want to do a cull, and the way I do a cull, my first pass is just click on the first image in the series, and we have here. And now it's because I have my single key shortcut set to star rating, I basically have my fingers on my number pad with the numbers here. And I have my thumb on the arrow keys, because if I need to maybe go back on something, I can do that. But if I'm looking at this image, I'm like, this is a fine image. If I hit the 3 key, it assigns, as you can see, 3 stars down here, and it automatically moved to the next image. So now we come through in here, and now we have a burst of images from this from the Anthem singer. Let's do a side-by-side comparison, and we'll say this first one, this is fine. We'll give this a 2-star. Well, let's see maybe if I find one that's better. So when I come down here, I say, oh, that's a little bit better. That's maybe a 2. That's 1. Oh, that's a little bit better. If I hit the G key, it swaps the kind of this image with the selected image. So I'm like, now that's my new pick. And then I can keep, let's give that a kind of a 4-star. And as we go through here, I can start looking at, which ones are better. I'm like, okay, actually, maybe I like that one better. Hit the, give that a 5-star and go back and swap it with the G. And now that's kind of my chosen. So that's what the G key is for, is when you're going through comparing images side by side, the G will swap them so that you can always keep kind of your favorite one over here to compare to whatever's next. So that's a good way to go through bursts and keep ordering with it. But we'll go back to the one view there. We can see we've added the 5-star. So let's continue on. I can start doing just hitting 2, and I can start going through here. And my first pass is always very kind of instantaneous, my reaction. So if I come through here and I can just like, I just might hit 2 until I see something that jumps out at me. Then I might hit that with a 3. Or maybe if I go, oh wait, actually I wanted to go back, let's go back. I can do that, maybe assign a different star rating. So say now maybe I'm thirsty, I need to go to get a cup of coffee. I wanted to show you this feature. So I've got some images in here that are rated, some are unrated. If I come down here and show me only the 0 stars, it can now show me kind of what I still have to do. It kind of hide all the ones that are already rated. This is helpful if you need to step away and you want to come back and remind yourself what you still have to do. So I've hidden all the 0 stars, or hidden everything except 0 stars, so that I can go through and continue my call. Let me come down here and start adding ratings to these. There we go, some blank trees. Obviously, go back here and give those 1 stars. All right, and let's go back to the full view here just to so I don't get distracted. But yeah, these are now. And we go back here and I can start my call or continue my call. And we're going in through here. Here's the game action. Let's see it start. And let's talk about how I might use the code replacement. Let's go in here. So maybe we're finding an image that I actually like. Here we go. Let's go back to that one. There's 44. So maybe I'm in here and I have the thing, but now I want to start adding more caption information. So I might because I see that's player 44, I have a shortcut for PT 44 or PT 44. Let's do that again. PT 44. Expands to that player's name. And if I want to put in his I want to put in, so I'm going through, let's just put in the shortcut for PT, Portland Timbers. And let's put in his position is PT 44, and then the 3rd column is done by number 3. There, inserted the position. So now I have that as I'm writing, adding this metadata. So that saved me a lot of work looking into writing the caption. We also have, looks like number 23 here versus, sorry, 23. And the same thing happens there. So that's code replacement in action. Really, especially when working with sports, but in many different cases, these shortcuts can save you a lot of different time. All right. So I'm not going to go through this whole sheet, but now you kind of get the idea. And I'm coming through here, and let's look at 3 stars and above. And let's say now I need to take these into something for post processing. I'm going to, I've switched to using Camera Raw, but if I just drag these over here to Photoshop, Photoshop is going to open these up in Camera Raw. I can also get there by using Command E to send all the images to my editor. But here we go, and then I can go through and start editing in Camera Raw. If I want to do, if I was working with Lightroom, I could configure that, and then the Lightroom import module would show up. But let's not actually get into the post processing, but I just wanted to show you that in action. There's a spinning ball because Photoshop and always kind of slows things down. Let's go back into photo mechanic here. There we go. And oh yes, I wanted to show you. So if you are working with different editors, I wanted to show you something else in preferences that can be very, very helpful for you. Let's go back into preferences again. That's Command, comma, Control, comma if you're on a PC. And under the launching area of preferences, here's where you set the default application. I said I have Photoshop. I could set this to be Lightroom. I could set it to just have the file, whatever's in Finder. I could set that, or I can fine tune it here. We can also under set here, you can also have different file editors for different file types, but we also have custom editors down here. So if I wanted to say I'm using Photoshop for some images, but I wanted to open up in I don't know, Iridium Developer or something for specific images, I can have a custom editor here. And that way, when I'm looking at images, and I right click on an image where it says edit photo with, I can have a whole list of different things here that will have different editors. So as I said, Photomechanic doesn't do pixel editing, but it tries very hard to integrate itself into your post-processing workflow and not slow you down at all. All right, that's basically what I wanted to show you. That's the, let's get into transmission as well. So once maybe I come and I'm sending these off to my editor. If I just do Command U, it opens up the uploader, the file uploader. And if I want to send these to an FTP site, I can do that here. If I want to send them to my photo shelter site, I can do that here. It's going to actually log me into photo shelter, and you see here's my galleries and whatnot. So you can go send these directly into photo shelter or FTP or Flickr, or you can even post to Twitter right from this uploader here. So that's another way to kind of get your images sent. And if I were FTPing thing, another thing I wanted to show you is what Photomechanic can do is if you need to send resized images, say your editor needs 1200 pixel images, you can have Photomechanic during the upload process create 1200 pixel images on the fly so that you don't have to save different copies of them. This is another huge time saver, something that I wish I had back when I was shooting concerts as well, because I would save different sizes for different publications, and I would have many different copies of images, and it started to be an organizational hassle. Photomechanic lets me create these resized images on the fly. I don't have to save a copy unless I wanted to. You can say uncheck this here to not save it, but you can also rename the images specifically for where you're sending them. So if one publication says we need that your name in the file name, you can do that here. So you can rename the folder so you don't have to create copies again. Photomechanic will create these on the fly as they're transmitting them. And you don't have to save those copies, so you can help save drive space and keeps you sane. At least it keeps me sane. All right, that was a lot. I did go pretty fast, but there's a lot to cover. Let's see if there are any questions. Like Mike or Katie, I don't know if you're still around, but let's see if there's any questions, and I'm sure there will be. We can kind of start to address those.
Thank you so much, Mick. I don't know if anyone can see me, but we're going to take some questions. I have a list for you. So can you first talk about Photomechanic in combination with Capture One? Is there any way to integrate Photomechanic data into Capture One?
So from a basic standpoint, I'll show you what I would do with, so we're going to go into preferences here. Yes, Photomechanic, many people use Photomechanic with Capture One. I don't have Capture One myself, so I can't tell you some of the very specifics, but let's go into the general preferences. No, let's go into the IPTC XMP preferences. This is the IPTC/XMP is metadata. IPTC is kind of the user-generated metadata. And we see here we have a lot of different options for where it gets stored. Is it put in the raw file? Is it put in a sidecar, etc.? But down here, we have presets for Capture One. We have a preset already that ships with Photomechanic that if you do this, it will choose the choices here that are best suited for working with Capture One. So I know that that's the first step in getting things to work with Capture One. And now as I add metadata to these images and I then take them into Capture One, that metadata should still follow you into Capture One.
Awesome, that's super helpful. Are you able to share how we can have Photomechanic tag colors mapped to Lightroom? It seems like some of our guests have been able to successfully have the same colors in Lightroom, but not everyone.
Yep. All right, one interesting feature of Lightroom, or one quirk of Lightroom, is that the colors, when they come in the metadata, are actually the name of the colors themselves. The actual word red is how Lightroom recognizes them. So as long as your color names here match what you have in Lightroom, it should work. And if you come over here, there's the preset. We also have a preset set in here to match Lightroom as well. Lightroom doesn't use, I believe, the 6, 7, and 8, so those are all duplicated here. But if your color names match what you have in Lightroom, then it should pass through. If they don't match in here, if we wanted to rename this, if you say, because a lot of people have this in Classic, we'll say winner, alt, etc. This won't show up in Lightroom. They need to actually match the color names. So let's go back into Lightroom. As long as these color names, the actual words match what you have in Lightroom, then the information should follow you.
That's so helpful. Thank you. So we have a
Yep.
question in the chat about the licensing. Someone has 6
Yes.
computers and an assistant who wants to work from home. Only one person at a time is using the software, and we have 2 copies of the license, but we need to move from machine to use the software.
Yes, that's true. Are they talking about like moving preferences? I'm not sure. Like, yes. So just the basics of licensing. One license, when you buy one license of Photomechanic or Photomechanic Plus, that one license will enable you to use will enable a single user to use the program on up to 3 computers. So maybe your home desktop, your laptop, and another auxiliary machine. If you have 2 people, you generally be required to have 2 different licenses. But yes, you could then install that on 6 different machines with 2 licenses, and should cover you and your assistant as well. And I would say if you're moving between different machines, I wanted to. So for example, let's go back into preferences. I can export preferences here. It's going to export all the different preferences to a PMX file. And I can basically all the preferences there, a long list of them. I can export them. And then on the second machine, if I come into preferences, I can import those preferences, and it will bring in all the preferences from the other machine into this machine. If you have something you want to share with your team. And this also works with things like the metadata info screens. You can download those as presets and distribute them to your team so that everyone is working with the same the same options.
Okay, great. Edwin, if you have any further questions about licensing, we'll get you connected to Mick and his team. Mick, another question that came up in the chat, is there a way to sync up the start time on 2 different cameras?
Yes, there is. So let's view everything here. Because these are. So if you had a number of images here that were shot with one camera, and a number of images that were shot with another camera where they didn't set the time correctly. This is very common. You would select the images that had the incorrect date and time, and you would come up to the tools menu and do adjust date and time, capture dates and times. And you could then come in here and adjust the capture dates on these images. And so say, for example, you were just doing, maybe you just forgot daylight savings time. You can come in here and set this to, so let's reset these. And it's just, you want to change it by an hour, choose 1, and it will dynamically alter the capture date of these images just by 1 hour. All the images that you've selected. If I click adjust photos, it would do that. One trick, or there's actually 2 tricks I wanted to point out. Trick A is if you're working with different photographers who don't always aren't always good at updating the date and time on their cameras, have them or ask them to shoot a picture of a clock during their shoot. And then you can go from that image. So if you shot a picture of a clock or their watch or their phone, you can come in here, set the time based on what you see in the picture. Like they might say 2:30 on the clock. You can set it to 2:30, and Photomechanic will, in relation, adjust the capture date on all the other selected images based on that clock image. So that's one way to do it. And the super advanced tip that not a lot of people know, if you're working in weddings, this is only applicable to weddings. But if you have one photographer who's good, they have their camera set properly, but you have second shooters, maybe they didn't set the time in camera and they didn't take a picture of a clock or their phone or whatever. If you go to the kiss, you find the time of the kiss from the one camera that you have, or that is correct. You can adjust the time on all the other images based on the time of the kiss, because the kiss is the same time for all the other images. So I learned that from Don Davis, another Cambridge ambassador, fantastic Photomechanic user. Yeah, that's the Don Davis trick, is to use the kiss to synchronize your time in a wedding photography scenario.
Thank you so much. Another question that we have is about AI integration. When will there be the option for filling tags with AI integration?
Not soon, at least not in Photomechanic. What I would envision is, for if there are other programs that can do that, And we're seeing that now where I might go into launching it. If I have another program that does that, or if I find another program that does that, I can set that as a custom editing thing in one of these custom slots. I could set this to, so like, let's just show this in action. I don't actually have one of these things, but I would come into applications and say, what do I want to do? So maybe, photo AI, it's not for tagging, but we'll see the thing. We'll apply this. And hit OK. So now when I'm looking at an image, I come here and edit photos with, you'll see that here. So if you have a program that can do that, you can configure that to do that, and Photo Mechanic will hopefully work with that program.
Nice. Hopefully that answers Edwin's question. Has Photo Mechanic considered adding a focus mask option?
It comes up once in a while. We've considered it. It's not been a high priority, but yeah, there's I want to also show, let's see, I want to go back to the web here and go show you the, so here's the website, but if we go to forums.cameraBits.com, the Camera Bits forum, there is a feature request forum down here. If you come down here and put feature requests in, people can vote on it and get feedback, and that's a good way to request new features for Photo Mechanic. The developers are very active on the Camera Bits forums. This is a great place to ask questions and get answers about the use of Photo Mechanic. So I wanted to point that out, but it's been considered. We haven't seen a huge demand for it, but the demand that is out there can be pretty vocal. So come to the forums, engage with the developers, and yeah, maybe we'll see that in the future.
Yeah, and just for everyone that's on this call, we will make sure we link that forum in the email that we send when we follow up. Okay, so I have a bit of a lengthy question. One thing that seems to come and go with different versions of Photo Mechanic is the sort by arrangement feature. This is a very useful feature, but for whatever reason, when clicking on sort by arrangement, sometimes it shuffles around the images in a different arrangement. Is there any way to fix that?
Without seeing what you're experiencing live, I can't really comment on that.
Sure.
It's
So
not something that I've run into. I just get, because I know, let's we go in here. So let's narrow this down to 3 stars. And now if I want to come down here to sort by arrangement, I can actually drag these around and create my own arrangement. So maybe I want this, maybe I want this at the end, etc. Move these around. So I can create my own arrangement here, yes. So if I move off a different search and come back, I don't know if there's a way to keep that memorized or not. But what I could do, so if you have an arrangement here that you like and you want to make sure that you don't lose it, like at all, no matter where you take the images, one trick I like to do is come in here and I would select all the images, and I would go into the rename dialog, and I can now add a sequence to the images. We'll do a 3-digit, and then we're going to put in the original file name. So let's go here and we'll just do the file name base. This will rename the files with the sequence number as your arrangement here. So like this will be 001, this will be 002, this will be 003. That way you'll always have that sort, that's the order that you did your custom arrangement. And then if you lose the arrangement, or you're in a program that only can sort by file name, you'll have that same thing here. So that's kind of a workaround. I don't know if it directly addresses the problem you're seeing, but I will give a shout out to our customer support team. We do have real people answering the phones during the week, during the business hours on the Oregon side.
Mick, just to follow up.
Yeah.
Just to follow up, they gave an example. If they're looking at images by capture time and they want to move around a couple of things, but when they change to view by arrangement, it shuffles everything that was nicely organized by capture time. And then they would have to manually organize it.
Oh, I see. That, I don't have an answer for you. I don't have a solution for that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think about that. I get the question. I see what you're saying. So if I did that, whatever reason, it doesn't retain the, yeah, I would give our support team a call. There may be a way to address that.
Sure.
I'm not sure. Again, though, if this was a mission critical thing that you needed to happen like right away and that you didn't have time to do that, you could sort by capture time or file name. you could add that 2-digit or 3-digit prefix to the file names so that when you went into your arrangement, it would still be there. That would be one like brute force workaround. I wouldn't recommend it all the time, but it's
Sure.
one way to attack it. And then give our support team a call. Like I said, there may be a way to do that, but it's not something I've run into.
Okay, thank you. Another question from the chat is, how can I set Lightroom as my editor? It's not listed in the dropdown.
All right, so let's go in here and go back into preferences. So assuming like if you have Lightroom installed, it might be that you can let Finder pick it. If you click on a file in Finder, and Lightroom opens, then you could have Finder do it, but you could assign it here. Let's choose it, and we can go into let's sort this by name, Adobe Lightroom CC, and what you'll need to do is come in here. So this is a folder, and the actual executable is in the folder. Select Lightroom. Sometimes there's not open files sent to it this way, so it's just a warning, because Lightroom seems to change the import process, the back end of the import process quite a lot. So we kind of put this warning in here, but let's Lightroom here. And okay, now if I just were to click E, this should start to open. Yeah, here's Lightroom. It's going to try and open up, and we'll go through that. I haven't opened a Lightroom in a while, so it might take a while, but that's how you would do it. You would, in the launching section of the preferences, do that, and you can specify it there. But just make sure that you don't select the folder, select the executable inside the Lightroom folder, and that's how that would work. Make sense?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay.
We just have a few more questions. Do you have an easy way to reject the outtakes?
That's a good question. I give my rejections 1 stars. That way I can differentiate them from the 0 stars, which means I haven't looked at them. So I'll come through here and I will do that. Geez, Lightroom is taking forever. It's kind of hijacked my demo here. But what you can do is, come on, Lightroom. What you can do is, if you're looking at the contact sheet and you have a big swath that you know are rejects, you can tell they're out of focus. You can select them all, and then in the menu, you can assign a 1 star to the whole thing at one go in one. So you can assign a 1 star to like 20 images in a batch, and then they're all taken care of. I don't know if that. Yeah, thank you, Lightroom. There we go. There's the Lightroom. All right, cancel. There's a very weird looking fellow. Okay, so go back here. So for example, we're coming down here and I'm like, yeah, these 3, if I want to do that, I can right click on them, and I can where is that? Yeah, I can set the color class. Maybe I want trash. I can set it to black, or I can assign the rating to all those, and do that in bulk. That's one way to do it.
Okay, great. Can you use variables to keep the photographer's information from their camera when setting the metadata?
Yes. You mean to maintain it? Yes. So
yes.
So when the metadata, let's come in here and let's look at this image. So the EXIF data is going to be in the file no matter what. So that's going to follow you. If you need to put that somewhere else, you can use the variables to insert like into the caption, or maybe let's do the keyword you might want to put in, say the model. I think that's right. So let's evaluate that. Yeah, there we go. There's the Canon there. So there's that information. Use the variable for that. There's variables for the lens type, which will have the actual lens used. Let's see if we can do that. Let's try this. There we go. There's the lens. The variables for the f-stop, I believe, is just f. That's curly brackets though. Let's evaluate that. There we go, f2.8. So yeah, all that information is available in the variables that could be inserted kind of wherever you need them.
Okay, great. And then are you familiar with Zapier?
A little bit.
Okay. Is it possible to integrate Photo Mechanic with Zapier?
With my understanding of Zapier is you could have Zapier monitor maybe like a folder on your computer, or maybe a site that you would then use Photo Mechanic to FTP images to those, either to an external site or move images into a specific folder. Let's
Okay.
not save this. But I wanted to show you the copy move dialog because it is also very powerful. So let's if I wanted to move a bunch of images, I can open up the copy move in here. By the way, the keyboard shortcut, this was Command Y, it would be Control Y on a PC, but you can also find it up in the menus up here. And I can move images into, I can fine tune where images are going to be moved to, and I could create a folder. I believe Zapier can monitor a folder if I'm not mistaken. I might be way off base on that, but you can either have it if you have an external site, you could have it monitor that via FTP. I'm not 100% sure on that, but hopefully that kind of will give you an idea how you would start solving that problem. And then if that's not it, again, give our support team a call. That may be able to, if you explain it in a little more detail, they might have a better solution for you.
Okay, great. And then the final question before we, sorry, one second, to get to the copy options, how do we do this? Okay, one last question in the chat. How do you get to the copy options?
Okay, so there's the, I always forget where they are in the menu because I always use the keyboard shortcuts, but let's see, file, copy move, there we go. It's under the file, copy move option, but I always use the keyboard shortcut, which is Command Y, Control Y if you're on a PC.
Fantastic. Okay, so final question is, where can we find a list of shortcuts on the website or in the forum that would be
Great.
helpful to navigating this?
And there is, I'm going to show you that. And there is one other thing I wanted to cover that I find very, very important. But let's go, first of all, let's go to the docs page again. The reason I always have to go to the docs page in my shortcuts is because if I go to the docs page by the URL, I have it set to see the admin view, so you won't see that. So that's kind of annoying. So you have to have this special URL. But if you go to the website, get this out of the way, cameraBits.com, and you come down here to support help center, that's the docs page. It's docs.camerabits.com, and it will take you to here. And let's take a look for, just do variables, search for variables. There's a list of variables here with all the descriptions, the variables here, and the description of what it's going to be showing. So that's helpful. Hopefully that's what they're asking. I hope that's
yeah, I think so. Okay.
And
what was the last thing you were going to show us?
That's when someone mentioned licensing before, I thought they were going to ask about this, but it's a feature that I find very important, and I want to get more people talking about it. We're looking at Google Images here, and I did a search for Todd Young, a famous concert photographer, and we'll see in Google Images he's got these images they're on his website, and Google Images has indexed them. But when you roll over, you see this badge pops up that says licensable, and if we click that, we see there's actually license information in Google Images. Google has indexed this license information, and I wanted to show you how you get that transferred from PhotoMechanic. Now, if you're in PhotoMechanic and you're adding metadata to amendments, let's take a bunch of these images, and I open up the metadata template for this. There is a section for licensing. We do this and we click edit, and this URL, if you put something in the URL field here and the name, your name here, Google Images will pick up that data and then display that similar badge if your images are indexed. With the one caveat that if you put them on something like Facebook or Twitter, those sites will strip out all your metadata completely. So this won't work for images that are on Facebook or Twitter. But if you're uploading them to your website, put in your licensing information here. There's a lot of other options as well, but putting your name and your licensing URL, and also in the rights usage terms, Google Images will show that, so it can help you. It's not going to, obviously not going to prevent all image theft and people taking your images, but it can be a way for people who are trying to do the right thing can find you, and they don't just grab an image off Google Images. So I wanted to point that out because it's not a feature that I see a lot of people using, but I think it's very powerful and can help some people. So, all right, thanks.
Okay, thank you so much, Mick. We really appreciate your time. For everyone that has attended, thank you for spending your lunch hour with us. We will have this recording uploaded, and we will follow up with you all via email. If you're an APA member, we will send you a discount code if you want to purchase a new license of PhotoMechanic or upgrade your software, and we hope to see you at one of our upcoming events.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank
Katie.
you.
Thank you, Mike. You guys have been great. We're big fans of the APA. So yeah, if you're not a member, please become a member. It's very helpful, not only to you, but the community as well. We're stronger when we're in this together. So
Thank you so much, Mick. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mick. Thanks,
Have a
everybody.
good one. See ya.